The next presenter is no stranger to ECA conventions, one of our regulars, Dr. Amalia Kedem from Jerusalem. Yes, indeed, from Jerusalem. Also sings very nicely. But
That's the academic Amalia.
She's been an archivist at the music department and sound archive of the Israel National Library in Jerusalem since 2008. She studied musicology at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, specializing in ethnomusicology and Jewish music. Her main field of research is the liturgical music traditions among Ashkenazi Jews in Israel, their sources, and the social context of their development. She's taught Jewish music and world music in various institutions in Israel and occasionally lectures on topics related to her work. In September this year, she has been appointed as Curator of the Music Collection at the National Library of Israel. Amalia.
With your permission, I will just make sure that the sound works. Don't go far away, Russell. Apologize. It's working. Shalom.
Hello.
Thank you to the ECA, Alex and Geraldine, who's not here, and Russell and Matt for very strong encouragement to come and join in despite all the, let's say, uncertainties related to living in Israel in these days. I have the blessings of my son, who is now serving in Gaza, and he said, you do what you need to do, I'll do what I need to do, and so I'm here with you. And it is a real honor and pleasure to present to you a little overview of the cantorial collections in the National Library. I must say, this is not a research presentation. So I will just give you a little bit of different kinds of cantorial collections that we have. It will give you an idea of the materials that we collect and different uses that maybe you can use. And I have two remarks that are general remarks, which I always say in such audiences. First, that I stand here before you as myself, but also as the National Library, and so this is the National Library of the Jewish people and the State of Israel, and so we are here at your service, and personally, you're welcome to connect me whenever you have a need or question. And the other is that if you hold or know of any recordings or collections that you don't know what to do with, even though there are a lot of people here who are involved in collecting music and preserving it and performing it. The National Library is well experienced in preserving paper as well as recordings of various kinds, and so it could be an address for collections if you have in the Boydom some reel-to-reel tapes and you don't know what to do with them. And you're not connected to any university, so please contact us. So the National Library has moved a year ago. In October 2023, it was supposed to be the festive inauguration of the new building for the National Library of Israel. This is what the reading rooms look like today. It's one big hall. They call it the Well of Knowledge, and it goes from the top, humanities, Islam studies, and then you see there's the straight shelves are the Judaica and the Israel collection, and then you go further down to the bottom, and then you have the special collections reading room where you can order in advance and look into special collections, archives, rare books, and music. A glimpse of the shelves of the music collection. Some people asked me what it looks like today, so this has changed already, but this is the first time really in the history of the National Library that we have an open shelf for music. As an open shelf, it means it doesn't have any rare books here, but if you come and you need some general literature, recent literature in various kinds of music, that's where you go. And this is the storage where nobody is allowed except for a handful of people with special permits. It goes 5 floors under the ground. It's like an atomic shelter. Very, very safe. A quick overview of the types of music and the subjects that we collect. So it would be Jewish music and Israeli music in the widest sense of both terms. So Jewish music from any denomination, everywhere in the world, from any time in history. Music of Israel and also Palestine in the historic sense of Eretz Israel. So everything we have that happened here musically from basically the beginning of the 20th century, but even there isn't much before that is documented. But it is also the National Library of the State of Israel and the area, and so we are making an effort to collect also Arab music of different kinds, with the hope to have it serve as a bridge to something, a concept that was raised here several times, between the peoples in conflict now. I put in a smaller circle topics like research, documentation, and music life. That means that we not only collect archival materials, but also things that happen now. So we document events, and researchers who go out to the field and document musical events, we collect this information and preserve the digital files. And you see, of every one of these subjects, so we collect all types of documents. It could be written in manuscripts and print and recorded in any possible media. So this is not going to be completely organized, but it will give you just a little bit of sense. It is representative in the sense that these are the types of documents we have. So the department now, the music collection, holds over 400 personal and institutional collections of music. So in Pinchas Minkowski's collection, we have manuscripts of his music and other documents, for example, his membership card of the Academician Union from Odessa. And you see, looks like he paid all his membership from 1920. There are some rare items. I name them singular items because we don't have the archive of Isaac Offenbach, the father of the famous Jacob Offenbach, but his Pinkas Chazan, which is a very small book. It's about this size, yes, about less than 20 centimeters high. And it says there, ניגוני ימים נוראים, komponiert Isaac Offenbach with 2 F, like it is with the F. And here you see one of the first pages, open Kaddish for Musaf. Unfortunately, no recordings of Cantor Offenbach from the early 19th century. Whoever is interested, you can look at this later. You want to have time to play some music. Oh, yeah. Sorry? Yeah, okay. One of the items that we received, actually purchased in the recent months were manuscripts by Yossele Rosenblatt. This is one of two compendiums in his handwriting. But if you see this is one sample of the book. The bottom says composed by Joseph Rosenblatt, and this is only the piano accompaniment. So you see there's no lyrics, and there's no cantor part here. It's just the piano. And this entire book belonged to his accompanist, and then after he passed away, it was kept by his son, Henry Rosenblatt, and then passed on to one of his protege, Gidon Atlas, who kept it for a long time. He even wanted to sell it in auction, and then decided that it should go back to Eretz Israel and be not in private hands. And then this is how it arrived to us. We have lately received a collection of an Israeli researcher of Israeli song, Eliyahu Cohen. Maybe some of you know the name. And his material, which is huge, is just now being processed. Everything that comes into the library goes to some process of disinfection. We put it in like in a bubble with no oxygen for a few days. But before it goes in there, you have to go through the boxes and organize it in a certain way. And this is how I got to see a glimpse of what's in these boxes. And I already seen some autographs of Yossele Rosenblatt, letters and other things that he apparently wrote on for other people. So right now we only have items of Yossele Rosenblatt, but hopefully it will become a certain archive, because he did not leave behind a substantial collection anywhere, but bits and pieces in different places. This is an interesting story. It relates somehow also to Veronika Zaitova, who was mentioned here before. Relates to the history of mid-Central European cantors between the wars. So Shaya Sud was a cantor in Prague, and his granddaughter called us to say that she has some manuscripts of her grandfather and recordings that he made. He escaped Prague to England, eventually to America, and around 1960 he made a recording of himself, apparently in the studio, of 4 pieces that he wrote. And around the same time he sent these manuscripts to Israel, to Machon Renanot. It was the Institute of Jewish Music, of religious music. It was headed then by Avigdor Herzog. And we discovered the original manuscript that he sent in the collection of Renanot. And the granddaughter only had photocopies. She didn't realize that. She brought us photocopies, and then we found the originals, and now we have also the recordings that she wrote. Let's see if that works from here. If not, I'll play it from the file. It will not play. So here's Shaya Sud, the beginning of his Elokai Neshama. He accompanying himself in piano. This is one of 6 pages. I'm always surprised, and it's strikes me over and over again, being born in the late 20th century, how people were taking their time back in the days. And there is no way that even the most fervent lovers of Chazanut in any synagogue would be willing to sit down and listen to a piece at that length. Definitely not Elokai Neshama if you say it in the morning. Maybe it helps you to wake up. This is obviously a concert piece. And this is one of those rare occasions where we have a cantor who is also the composer, and we have, in this case, very close what he performs, very close to what he wrote, but sometimes we have cases where the notes are not so clear, but then the recordings help us to decipher what's going on. If you want more details about Sud, we can talk about it later. Yeah. And this is another example that I encountered thanks to Isidoro, who was working on some Steinberg collections, so thank you. This is an interesting example for something that happens to archivists when they work in the same archive for a long time. So, pieces by David Moshe Steinberg, we have a few in various sources, some printed, some in manuscript. And one of the examples that we found was in the collection of Chazan Binyamin Unger, who was the chief cantor of Tel Aviv Great Synagogue, and had a huge collection of manuscripts. Only 3 of them were his own compositions. And so his, what we call Pinkas Chazan, that's the collection of the pieces that we don't know if he used, but he did put them in order, and they were there in his collection. Serve also to create like sub-archives of other people. And that's where we found this piece. And I don't know if you can read it from afar. This is one of 2 pieces in the Ungar collection that were written. It says up there, Moshe Steinberg Chazan, and it's signed Tel Aviv, Tetvav Kislev Tafshin Tet Zayin, that's 1955. Mendel Stechter Chazan, Lechaveri Listen. Now we don't know who Listen is, and if anybody knows, please tell me, because we had a whole bunch of manuscripts in Ungar's collection titled Chazan Listen, and we don't know who he is. Chaveri Listen Anichbad HaChazan HaMenagen. So Mendel Schechter, who was a friend of my grandfather in Bukovina, and you see him, one of these only records that was played, that came out, wrote down pieces by other cantors and apparently sent them to Listen, who eventually ended up in Ungar's collection. So, you know, if you remember the names, after meeting them over and over again, sometimes it will solve some questions. Here it was just a coincidence. I wanted to show you that it's not only one manuscript, it could be one manuscript, but many people are involved in creating, preserving, remembering, performing, etc.
Is Ungar from Hungary?
I don't know, I don't think so.
Because I'm related to him somehow. I don't know.
Another fascinating story is that of Zalman Polak. I wrote but did not publish a long article about Polak. Very interesting and a bit tragic story of a Chazan to whom the worst thing could happen happened. He lost his voice around the age of 50. We have a whole collection of newspaper clippings, as the one you see here from Haaretz and Palestine Post, of almost every performance he had in Israel from 1934 until 1948. He first came as a youth in I'm not sure exactly when, around the time of the First World War. In 1921, he was injured in Israel in the riots and went back to, he came from a small place near Subotica, and he went back there and he studied with Miller, Chazan Miller. Yuda Leib Miller, later was a Chazan in Yerushalayim, and with Yosef Basel and with the various cantors. And when he came back in 1934, he was an accomplished Chazan and performed all over the country. And then something happened, maybe it was related to his injury early in the 20s, and he lost his voice, and we have no recordings of him singing with a full voice. But he did not despair, and he actually established an academy for Chazanim. And he recorded himself singing in falsetto. Everything. Chazan. You will hear him in a second. And from around 1950 to his death in 1985, he taught dozens and dozens of Chazanim, using his recordings and also himself. And we keep finding now, even these days, recording sessions that he made with other cantors who were his pupils. When he narrates the recording, we will now start, and then you hear the Chazan singing. And I have a short example of how he was teaching a Chazan. Now what you see here is the scores that he made, and we have, this is really a precious collection because we have 13 hours of all his repertoire in that falsetto voice recorded, and 2 boxes of papers that are already in folders organized. He was hoping to publish a musical sidur, and you see he was very fluent in the various versions of Ashkenazi nusach. So you have nusach Hungaria up there, and avot for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, nusach Mizrach Europa. So he would put them aside, and he knows if it's nusach Sfard, he would add that, and he would have a version for Baal Tefillah and a version for Chazan, etc. So it was a one man's orchestra. Let's hear him teaching Chazan Braverman. This is for Shabbat. This is not and then Chazan Braverman repeats the entire paragraph complete. I think this is very special recording, and when I encountered it, you know, you are the fly on the wall in that little one-on-one session, and listening to different students, different pupils of Zalman Polak. One can tell he was a very strict teacher. But again, every cantor has his own voice and style, and but he was very important in that sense because he influenced many chazanim and many kehilot. Yes.
I believe many of us have like one of his svarim that are published.
There is only one.
Okay, and that's
that
what?
Binyamin Glickman put together from the manuscripts due to his widow's.
I'm just trying to remember, is it Shabbat and Challah? It's just a little bit of everything?
Shabbat,
Okay,
just
just
Shabbat's morning, I think, Kabbalat Shabbat. This is one of the cases where you see the Tachtoch Kitzvah in the middle line, where you have the tune but no rhythm.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
See, only the sticks, and it all looks like quarter notes. You see where the speaker is. But then we have a recording, so we can complete this information. I won't play that because I want to play something else. But he's very expressive in his singing. ותחתוך קצבה לכל בריותיך, לכל בריותיך. Very particular about all these little twists. ותכתוב, ותכתוב, ותכתוב את גזר דינם. And then he wrote שירה בציבור. בראש השנה, בראש השנה, ייכתבו. Anybody knows it? ביום צום כיפור, ביום צום כיפור, ייכתבו. So, at first you see what I'm going to do with this tune, but we have, from various sources. How much time do I have?
You have 8 minutes and 55 seconds.
9 minutes, give her 5 seconds.
Okay, this is just to show you what we found in the boxes that were saved by miraculously, because he had no children, and after he passed away, we are not sure what happened exactly. His widow had, I guess, had the stuff in the house, and when it was somehow evacuated and the boxes were left outside on the street, there were two yeshiva Bechurim who found it and brought it to the library. So we saw some music there of tefillah. We thought maybe you would want to see it. So this is a real miracle, and I think he merits, to be remembered. And you see, everything was prepared to have this siddur printed, and maybe one day there are a few Polak groupies that all, every time when they meet me, they say like, "What do you have to do with Polak?" I mean, so it so happens that I grew up in a synagogue in Yerushalayim with one of his students, and that's why all this music is like my Yosef de Kuta, and I say like, of course, this is how you say, "Uvashofar gadol yitaka vekol demama daka yishama." So, but you have to have a good chazan to hear in order to remember it. Okay, so because we're talking about education and teaching of Chazanut, here's another example which is, I think, very important for this audience here to know. We are holding the collection of Yoshua Leib Neiman. Maybe you know his books, Nusach LaChazan and Tamei Mikra, and you'll be thrilled to know that in his archive we've discovered Nusach LaChazan Kerech Gimel, with everything that is missing, because Nusach LaChazan Aleph was for Yamim Noraim, and Nusach LaChazan Bet was Shabbat, and everything else, completing Tfilot Shabbat, Shalosh Regalim, Yemot HaChol, a variety of all kinds of other things are in manuscript and are being prepared for print as we speak. So
Yay.
be prepared. Yes, so this is in the, we managed to recruit the Neyman family, not the sons, but the grandsons, and they managed to find finance for that. And I don't know if anyone knows Yossi Zucker from Old Tav Publishing, and he's working on this according to the model of the first volume. So I hope maybe in the coming year. Here I want to play just one small piece by Neyman, also to get his voice. You see a picture of him teaching Beit Sefer Lechazanut. This should be early 60s. He studied with Rozovsky. You see, in one of the things that he used is the cycle of minor and major. So he was, you know, so you say Chazan Maskil. He was very knowledgeable, and apparently very strict in his books, and very, you know, kind of going straight the right way. But in the archive we could find some recitatives that are very florid and very interesting, and it's interesting that he was not willing to record them in the studio, but he did perform according to his book. Let's hear just a little bit of that. And I have one more sample example, and that's it. Sorry, I lost my month, so let's get that. But you can definitely go online to the National Library and look for Neyman, and then you sort the results and look for studio recordings, Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah, Yomim Noraim, etc. And you can hear the entire recordings. And some more recent recordings. Some of the collections we have are entirely recorded and with no written material. For example, Moshe Nordheim, this is the cantor that I grew up with, who was very learned, originally from Amsterdam, and he learned with both Rivlin and Pollack, and even Vittorio Weinberg was his teacher for a short while. I don't have time to play more samples, right?
Yeah. 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay, so what you see here, I will skip Bodenheimer this time, but I will play for you Moshe Nordheim and Danny Bash and Pinchas Reutemann. So Moshe Nordheim from Amsterdam originally. Danny Bash was born in Zurich. Her father, you see the small picture with his father on his bar mitzvah, who was from Zagreb. And Pinchas Reutemann, who was born in Kielce and then moved to Metz in France, and he was one of the a very prominent figure in Bnei Akiva in Europe during the war. A Hasidic family. These are 3 balei tefillah from the same synagogue, and I'd like to play for you the Kaddish before Musaf Rosh Hashanah, sung by 3 different Chazanim in the same synagogue. Okay, we'll start with Nordheim, who was the Chazan for the synagogue for almost about 40 years straight.
Malchut
sorry, I'm stopping this. You notice that he very, he makes sure that the pronunciation is Sephardi and the accent is Israeli Hebrew. Danny Bash, who was for years the Bal Musaf for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, because first day was and then Reutemann, who preferred not to sing Kaddish, to sing Musaf. He would do Ne'ilah sometimes, but in a home recording we got this. Sorry.
Bam 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 ba ba bam 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 ba ba ha ha la 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 itkadal veitkadal
That's just a whole different story. And the last example I want just to show, no more recordings. Moving.
By the way, did you want to show us how to
that's
get into
beautiful.
the site, or there's no time for that? We take
We
an
can do
extra
that
minute?
if there's, at the end, if there's some time. I see there are some, this is familiar to some people. This is again a rescue story, how the widow of Pinchas Spyro, born Shapira in the old city of Jerusalem, and ended up being the chazan of a conservative shul in Des Moines,
Iowa City.
Des Moines,
Oh,
Iowa.
Des Moines, right. Yeah, Des Moines.
And everything was already packed and ready to be deposited at the local library, and again, miraculously, we had connections and we managed to get the entire collection here. And this again is a personal and institutional archive which really portrays the musical history of a congregation,
Wow.
which is something that we hope to do, especially for places where either the congregation is not interested or there is some Israeli connection. And we found some in Spyro's manuscripts also mentioning of, this is a piece by Rivlin, because he learned with Zalman Rivlin back in the 30s in Yerushalayim. So again, this is the basis for the evolution of his own cantorial career. And maybe it's worthwhile mentioning that we are now in the process of receiving Benny Meissner collection from Holy Blossom in Toronto, hoping that we are learning how to deal with this, an archive that is not only of a person, but also documents the history of a kehillah. And this is very precious because, again, we have the Israeli connection of Benny and where he started his career. I just want to tell you one more thing about Pinchas Spyro, who was very involved in the Cantor's Assembly in the 50s after he moved to America. And in his archive, which is very, very rich with manuscripts and printed material and his personal documents, I don't know if you know, he put out many versions of a book for learning the Haftarah.
Yeah.
And in the archive we found, you see this is the list of cantors, of his friends, that he wrote. He made a form with the different tropes of Haftarah, and he sent a copy to about 20-something of his friends, asking them, please mark if this is the way you do, etc. And he has a whole
Ah.
lecture printed that described, say, I came to America
Oh,
and
well, good luck.
I wanted to teach how to lay the Haftarah, but I didn't know what version to choose. So he made a survey, and
Oh my God. The symbol for sok pasuk, I
This
don't
is
understand
one
why you
of the-
constantly avoid its use.
you see this is Joseph Levine. You see signed down there, November 6, 1961. So there are 20 documents like this. Some of them are accompanied by personal, very long letters. So this, he did a very extensive work preparing for this Haftarah. It's not like he just wrote what he remembered as the drops. And
Wow.
see?